And welcome back to West Coast Weekend. I am still ZoeVermilion. I haven't changed, but my skill at using words has hopefully gotten better since the last time I talked to you. Oh, didn't. I'm wrong. All right. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Zoe.
How are you? You're back after a brief Super Meat Boy intermission.
Yes, you might remember me from such runs as about Willow 2 hours ago.
Yet another game about a boy that stabs slimes with a sword.
Exactly.
So what are you going to be running for us today, and why is it the progenitor of all video games?
Okay, so what I'm going to be running for you here is a game called Neutopia. This is on the TurboGrafx 16. It is a wonderful kind of action-adventure RPG game, and as the run goes along, we will discuss just how influential and inspirational this game has been on really just video games as a whole. So be sure to sit back, relax, get your favorite beverage, and come on this journey with me for about the next hour or so as I inspire you with all kinds of great facts about this game.
Yeah, just like Neutopia inspired all other video games. If you thought your favorite video game was original, I apologize to tell you. I am sorry to tell you. Gosh, I cannot words tonight, Vonnie. That Neutopia definitely was the reason why it happened. Anyway, okay.
There might be some bubbles burst tonight.
Yeah, no. To countdown?
Sure, yes. Alrighty. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so here's your lore. In the middle of the night, in the peaceful land of Neutopia, the evil wizard Dearth beams himself down into the palace and absconds with Princess Aurora, which is very, very not cool. But this summons our hero. Everyone, say hello to Jazeta. He's going to be our protagonist for this wonderful story here. And we're going to get a speech here from the Temple Mother, who tells us basically what happened in the middle of the night, and that in order to open that seal behind her to Dearth's evil lair on the North Pole, we need to collect the 8 medallions of wisdom from our forefathers of years past, affix them here in the temple, and that is how we will do it. So we set off on our adventure. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to pop in here, and we're going to pick up an item. This item that I'm about to pick up is called the Book of Revival. What this will do is it will allow me to obtain passwords from areas that would normally give it, either from the Temple Mother or from various places around in the overworlds. Why I'm really getting it is because we're doing the 100% category, and I'll explain more about what exactly that entails as we go along here. But we're going to make another pit stop here to talk to this guy, pick up a couple of important things here. We now have a set of bombs. These are going to be very useful for getting through the game. And we also have a vial of medicine, which is a one-time use item that will completely refill our life. So let's talk a little bit about how the structure of this game works. The overworld is actually split up into 4 distinct sections, which are referred to as spheres, and we do them in a linear order. Right now we're in the land sphere. After this we'll do the subterranean sphere. The third one will be the sea sphere, and then finally we will be in the sky sphere. Now, each sphere has 2 crypts in it, which are essentially dungeons. At the end of each dungeon is one of those aforementioned medallions. But what we're picking up now is arguably the most useful item in the game. This is the Fire Wand. This will allow us to assault enemies from a distance, which is extremely important for our survival and for my very simple philosophy during this game, which is, don't touch me. I don't like to be touched by enemies.
It's a very, very good philosophy to live by.
It's a very negative experience. So I'm going to demonstrate something here on what's now the next screen about enemy movement. We're just going to come up here. We're just going to go zoop to the right, up, block this arrow, and up and around him. In many instances, the movement patterns of enemies, at least initially, is static, such that when we enter a screen, we can pretty reasonably predict what a lot of these enemies are going to do. Not all enemies are like that. Like these lizard men We don't want them getting in our way. That's really the important thing. Start using these bombs here. Alrighty. We're going to pop in here, and this guy is going to give us an additional segment of life. This is actually a good time to talk about the 100% category. In order to satisfy the 100% category, we need to obtain all of the individual items that are permanent in our inventory. We need to grab all of these sword, shield, and armor upgrades. And we also need to have fully upgraded bond capacity as well as life capacity. Now, here's the interesting thing. You always get an extra segment of life every time you complete a crypt. But there are 4 people that you can talk to throughout the game that will give you additional segments. You only need to talk to 3 of the 4 of them, because if you finish all the crypts and then get the 4th optional one, it won't actually give you anything because there's only so much room on there for your life bar. So so in order to just have that full life as the category requires, only 3 of those 4 optional ones are necessary. So of course we skip the one that is the least. You see the power of the fire wand there as I'm able to attack enemies from a distance so that they don't gang up on me. That item I just picked up, and another one. Okay, these are the magic rings. I'll explain those a little more in a second. But let's talk about how the crypts work. So, like I said, in each sphere there's going to be 2 crypts. One of them is noticeably more difficult or complex than the other one, and thus is intended to be done second. In this case, we are always going to do those crypts first, because the goodies that we get either on the way to or in those crypts are of high value, and we want to get them as soon as possible. So, what I'm going to pick up here is a key. Each crypt has a solitary key that is unique to it. You need it in order to open the door to the boss's room. So you could say that it functions kind of like a master key. One of the many ways that A Link to the Past was inspired by Neutopia. This is another theme of the dungeon, is these old men that are chained up. I don't know why, it's just a thing, we just deal with it. Oh my goodness, don't do that. See, this is why trying to keep enemies at a distance is important, because especially for the ones that move randomly, you don't want to get caught up. One of the other things that is really interesting that I think about this speedrun and routing, but one thing that needs to be discussed, is how this fire wand works. Now, you see these kind of like little yo-yo style orbs of fire coming out. That's not the way it's always going to be. That fire is actually going to be upgraded. And the way that that's done is it's based on your current life total. There are a few different grades of fire that are based on how much life you have currently, not your maximum, but your current total. So it's important to, in certain sections, make sure that you take as little damage as possible, because otherwise your attack power is going to be weakened, and that can just make things a lot longer and a lot less safe too. So we have to be mindful of that. Okay. All right, so here's our first boss, the clay golem. We're going to hop right up and do damage to it immediately. Now, these pieces of clay that fly off of it when it splits, those can do damage to you, but fortunately, they can also be destroyed by your sword. So when you walk up into the room, if you walk straight up on the right-hand side, you can just move right up, stab at the right time. It's going to not only destroy the pieces that come off on the front side, but also do damage to that orb in the middle. Alright, so there we go. We've already got one medallion that has been affixed. Now we are going to get the other one. is encrypt 1, essentially. So I've already got an upgrade to my sword, the first upgrade. There's going to be 3 upgrades for each: the sword, the shield, and the armor. And those are going to be with one exception, those are going to be, actually with a couple exceptions, I should say, those are going to be encrypts throughout the game. Yeah, so I see someone commenting on there, a golem with the Star of David on it. At first, I will admit this, I will kind of pull the curtain back here. At first, I thought that enemy was a robot. But when I did it in a marathon one time and the video for it got put onto YouTube, I got schooled in the YouTube comments of the video that is not indeed a robot. It is actually a golem, and the reason why it has the Star of David on its chest is that golems are prominent in Jewish folklore. So I learned something, y'all just learned something, and yeah, good to know, right? Who likes ignorance?
Learning with Vonnie.
Yes, exactly. Learning with volleyball.
It's definitely something that I knew, but it's also, I love fun facts like that. So
sure, yeah. Well, I mean, people were making a comment about it, and like, hey,
the learning opportunity.
So this room and the one before it, I affectionately refer to as the Belfry, because we've got bats, and actually, I believe Lack Attack, who is a very famous Legend of Zelda speedrunner, was inspired to name his room in level 6 that he deals with the Belfry as a result of what we see here in Neutopia. So big shout outs to Lack Attack. I know, learning from YouTube comments of all places.
Yeah.
Normally the only thing you learn from YouTube comments is how much of a jerk people think you are.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you got schooled by YouTube comments, and that is a feat by itself.
Right? Alright, so here's our first armor upgrade. Let's kill Wolfie Boy before we can get out of here. Don't go running away from me. Oh, I actually want that. Alright. Again, we're gonna walk up here. Random old guy chained up in a dungeon. It's just a thing. Oh, because I might actually get another one here. Ooh, I got an hourglass. Hourglasses are great, except for when it's the last enemy in the room that drops one. Those are rather irritating. Alright. So here we have the Dragon Lord from, which inspired the Dragon Quest games. Okay, there we go, he's done. Typically it's just one stab with the sword and then 4 bombs, and then it dies. But sometimes it will boost to the left as opposed to up, and when that's the case, you gotta kind of slide over to deal with it. Alright, so now we have obtained both of the medallions in the land sphere. We are now in the subterranean sphere, and you can tell it's subterranean because there's lava. There's also going to be, every time you get into a new crypt, it's going to introduce new enemies, which become progressively more annoying than the crypt before it. Case in point, these kind of blue rock-throwing demon guys, they're extremely rude and are very random as well. Now, oh my god, I didn't mean to drop that bomb. I have spare. Hello. Alright. So what I'm picking up here is an item called the Moonbeam Moss. What this will do is it will light up dark rooms in dungeons. A mechanic that inspired what you normally see in The Legend of Zelda. The Moonbeam Moss has infinite charges and will light up like a few rooms at a time. I will be using it only in one specific room because all of the others, I know my way around them. They're simple enough to deal with, so it's usually not a problem. So the potion is the only exception to single-use items where you can carry more than one, and bombs, of course. But things like the ring, the wings, stuff like that, you can only carry one at a time. Well, something else to note here that I didn't get hit. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. You see that fire that I just threw out? It was kind of that tall rolling column of fire. I now have this upgraded level of fire because I have at least 8 full segments of life. There will be a final form once I have at least 12 full segments of life. And we'll talk plenty about that when that arrives. Oh, God, don't get me. No rocks, please. No, thank you. Okay. So, what I'm about to pick up here is a very necessary item, and I cannot do it without shouting out my dear friend Scala Kitty, who is the #1 superfan of Neutopia. This is the rainbow drop. What this will do is this will allow me to traverse gaps in the environment that are 1 tile wide. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because it inspired the mechanic for the step ladder in The Legend of Zelda. See, it's all coming together, right?
I will second that shout out for Scala. She is
Yes,
wonderful
indeed.
and very much shaped like a friend.
Alrighty. No, we didn't get an explanation on the rings. Thank you, Hobo Raptor, for saying so. So what the rings do is they're a single-use item that will transform certain enemies into smaller, more easy to defeat ones. I'm not going to need to use those until Crypt 6, which is in the next sphere. But you want to have them as soon as possible, just to kind of put your mind at ease.
Don't want to have to fish for them later.
We are going to have to be doing fishing for them because ultimately we will want to use 3 rings throughout the game. 2 of them are used in Crypt 6, so we will want to use one and then get another one. And it's just reflexive to get it just because it's so nice to have them, even though that doesn't do me any good. I'm already carrying it. It's moth to a flame. Really. Excuse me. All right. So we are going to pick up our second armor upgrade here. We're going to go and boost backwards off that fireball. Boop, boop. Oh, shoot. I didn't want that. That's fine. That is fine. Actually, Zelda looks a lot like this. Phrasing is important. Anyway. So yeah, a lot of these dark rooms, I know them well enough that I can go through them. I don't need to waste the menu time to pull up the, what do you call it? The Moonbeam Mall. Alright, so what's coming up here in this next room is one of my least favorite rooms in the entire game. It's because of these ghost enemies here. The ghosts are annoying for a couple reasons. First of all, they can only be damaged with your sword. Fire does nothing to them. The other thing that they do is they can just disappear randomly, and will just stay that way for a couple seconds, and then maybe reappear if they feel like it. That was actually a really good ghost room. What's really terrible about them is if you grab an hourglass item, which normally stops time for about 20 seconds, if they are invisible when you grab it, they will stay invisible until the hourglass wears off. So, normally, every time you see an hourglass, you want to grab it because it keeps you nice and safe. But it's very much risk-reward when you're fighting the ghosts. So, you have to be very careful with that. Otherwise, you can just waste a boatload of time if you don't want to. We have our second armor upgrade now. Nice. Now that we've gotten the key, we can make our way to the boss's room. Just coming up shortly. This boss is a very special boss, and I will explain it when we get there, but, oh, hello. So those cherries refill a segment of life. Generally speaking, cherry drops are rather rare, so anytime you get them, it's pretty nice. Never something you want to count on, though, if you're in trouble. Just kind of a bonus. Alright. Here we go. boss fight time. And we're done.
Oh, that was a thing.
It was, and that thing is what I refer to affectionately as Stunlock Earwig. The way that that boss works is it has several segments to it, like a centipede. The only segment that takes damage is its tail, but all of its segments suffer from the hit stun from your sword. So what you can do is walk into the room on the left-hand side, walk straight up, bounce all of its segments against the wall, and it really just can't move. Hence the name.
Also,
All right, these demons are extremely rude. I just want you out of there.
just out of curiosity, I'm not sure if you had mentioned it. What are the wing items that have been dropping?
Yeah, so what the wing items will do is they will take you back to the last place where you obtained a password. Or if you haven't obtained one yet, they'll just take you back to the temple. I am going to use that in one very specific instance, and that's it. And I will be sure to, but that's more until the end of the game. That guy that I just talked to in there, what he did is he increased my bomb capacity. I normally could only hold 8, now I can hold 12. We're going to talk to 2 more guys just like that, so ultimately I'll be able to hold up to 20 bombs. The nice thing that he does is not only when he increases your capacity, he also fills your bomb count to full, which is very handy. Alright, so now we're in crypt 3, even though it's the 4th one that we've done. Doing these out of order is optimal. We use a lot of bombs in this crypt, so the fact that we get a refill in this category right before it is very convenient. Again, chained up old men, but this one has a gift. And that gift is our first shield upgrade. So now we can block the blue fireballs at enemies. Alright, lots of dark rooms in here. Fortunately, we know where we're going. A big pool in the middle of this room, so we have to move around it. Getting out of the way, thank you. I would like to keep this level of fire if I can. If I take one more hit, I will likely lose it. So, again, you just got to be really careful with some of these enemies that you fight. So that you don't take damage. Excuse me, if you don't take damage if you don't want to. Alright. Here we go. Grab the key. There's a block there, trust me. Needed to push that in order to open the door to get out. Block here too. I know where this stuff is, I can smell it. Ooh. That cherry. I'm getting hit by enemies. That is unfavorable. Alrighty, so boss coming up here. These are the dagger twins. We're gonna move in a specific pattern to just bounce this guy off the wall 6, 7, 9, 11 times. Then we're gonna bounce this guy down, and he's just gonna basically just stay in place. And as long as your movement pattern and your timing is always right, that pattern that you get from the enemies will happen pretty much every single time. Alright. So that is now both medallions in the subterranean sphere. This is going to open our way to the sea sphere. The sea sphere is where we see a sharp uptick in the difficulty curve of this game. The next crypt that we're going to go to here is, in my opinion, the most difficult crypt to deal with in the speedrun, and it's not particularly close. But before we get there, we are going to make a whole bunch of stops. We're going to talk to this guy. This is going to be our second life capacity upgrade outside of what you get from finishing off crypts. Ah, great question. You see me collecting gold. How much am I going to use? The answer is 0. There is no need to buy anything in this game. The only time you really want to use it is there's a section later on in this sphere where you can buy more potions as well as a magic ring, but I shouldn't need that. On top of that, there is a room that you can go in where you just talk to a guy under a staircase and he gives you 1,000 gold just straight up for free. So, it's like he's keeping a secret from everybody. Now we're going to take the time to kill these enemies here, because doing so, that fireball, and then hopefully roast you, please go that cake. That's going to make this staircase. Oh, and so the place that we went in before here was another one of those caveman dudes, and he gave me my second bomb capacity upgrade. See, now I'm holding 16. What this guy is giving me here is a really sweet item, especially for the speedrun. It's also a necessary one. These are the Falcon shoes. These are going to double my movement speed. And this is going to be extremely handy because we want to be as nimble as possible for some of these enemies and patterns and whatnot that we're going to be encountering, such that we can avoid damage as much as possible. It's also a necessary item in that this crypt that I'm about to enter, you cannot enter it, or you can't like walk on the tile in front of it unless you're wearing the Falcon shoes. So it gives us the speedy zooms and the ability to proceed in the game. Okay.
I'm so glad you called them speedy zooms because I was about to call them zoomies.
All right, so like this plate here with the 3 heads, you can't walk on that unless you have the Falcon shoes on. All right, so this is Crypt 6. This introduces a whole bunch of really stupid enemies, like this wizard here. This wizard really stinks because what he will do is he will always shoot those beams out whenever you are directly above or below him or to his side, and they will neutralize your fire. So we don't like that at all. Also, these green slug enemies, remember them. They're going to be extremely important in this crypt especially. Now, these enemies, I refer to them as zombadillos. They kind of look like undead armadillos. These are another enemy that can only be damaged by your sword. They are impervious to your fire wand. And because their movement pattern is so random, getting up close to them is not a lot of fun. So, just some of the dolors of speedrunning Neutopia. Okay, we've got our key. This is good. Now, one thing that I did in a room in Crypt 4, but I did it here, is the way that enemies reappear when you've killed some of them and then return to the screen that they were on. The way that they distribute the enemies in that particular room is such that if there are certain enemies that have already been defeated, it will remove them from the bottom of the screen on up. So I kill 2 of them, and then when I come back, the enemies that I need to kill are on the top of the screen, and I can get to them sooner. Alrighty, so here we're going to use the ring. You see a bunch of wizards, and now you don't. Instead, you see slugs. But some of these slugs are going to be special types of slugs. And we're going to see if we can demonstrate what those are. Unfortunately, we can't, but I'll tell you about them. Now, slugs that you kill that don't drop anything of real consequence, those are just slugs. But the slugs that you kill that drop magic rings, those we refer to very affectionately as slug homies. We need some slug homies to come through for us in this crypt here. Particularly before we get to a specific room, which is coming up in the not-distant future. But first, we want to roast all these bugs so that they don't do any damage to us. But whatever. Okay, cool. Got these little floating hooded guys with daggers. Clearly, Final Fantasy series took inspiration for tomberries from these enemies' designs. So, again, another little tidbit. Impress your friends with it. Alright. So now we need to get greedy with these slugs. Normally you don't need to kill them, but we need a ring. Or at least we really, really want a ring. And so we're going to take a few seconds to kill him, and we got one. Hooray for
Nice.
greed.
Greed always pays off.
Most of the time. Sometimes, oh, very nice. Sometimes it doesn't, and when it doesn't, it makes life difficult.
It feels like an allegory.
Something like that. Ooh, another one. Again, that doesn't matter. All right, now I want you to pay this attention to this room as I enter. I'm going to use the ring right away. Watch the pattern of blocks. You see how there's kind of like an island of, like a ring of blocks in the middle? Normally you would have to fight all of those wizards on the outside of the room. It's oh, another slug, homie. Let's go. Let's go. Hell yeah. Oh, please, take it. All right, so we now have the strongest armor. This is our final armor upgrade that we're going to get. Very important. So, so we got a slug, homie. This is awesome. We're not going to use another ring until Crypt 8, but we've just gotten our ring acquisition out of the way. So that's the good thing. All right. So these kind of column fire here that I'm using, it does more damage, but you see, it moves. It's kind of plodding. It moves very slowly. It can be very difficult to control. So while you like to have the distance maintained from enemies, using that fire can be somewhat problematic. All right. There's only 2 wizards in here, so we don't use the ring on them. We just go ahead and just deal with them. Oh, now I get the hourglass. All right. So this is Poverty Tridex.
I mean,
why he is named that should be self-explanatory.
he couldn't afford the necks. He's just got the heads.
Yep. Alrighty, so we've done exactly what we want to do. We want to separate the heads from the body and then just proceed to just bounce them off the wall. Ooh, I'm going to use a potion here just so I don't, like, die. Anything. Okay, cool. But now that we've defeated that, this is the room with the medallion, but guess what? You have to deal with enemies, and darkness, and turrets. Hooray. Alrighty, so we are done now with Crypt 6, the most difficult crypt in the game. Now, what we also have now is 12 full segments of life. This will now allow us to use what I like to refer to as good fire. This is the final level of fire. It rolls along at a very fast pace. It does a ton of damage. And it's just overall really neat. Now, if I take, and because I have exactly 12 segments of life as a maximum as well as a current, if I take any damage whatsoever, I will lose it until I get a refill. So, what we're going to do now is, oh my god, and there it is. I just got hit, so I've lost it. What we're doing here is probably the biggest detour of the game to pick up an item that you only need to get for the 100% category. We're going to pick up our second level of shield, which is called the Fire Shield. This will allow us to block the red fireballs that you see throwing.
That sounds familiar.
I see you're picking up on the theme here, Zoe.
Yes, yes.
Alright, so we have the Fire Shield. This is way out of the way. I'm basically going to go right back to where I came from, just to get back on track. This is a huge waste of time, and easily the most annoying item that you need to get for 100%. So, mostly because there's so many opportunities in there to get hit and lose your good fire. So it is a very, very heavy source of resentment for me. Oh, I'll show you here. That staircase that I just opened up, that's the dude that gives you 1,000 gold if you go in there and talk to him. But we don't need to do that. What we do need to do here is this little unique area that we're about to enter. Ooh, I got a cherry. I got a good fire. All right. We're going to come in here, and this looks very much like a crypt, except it's really not. And I'll explain once I get through this room. Want to try to kill this guy without dying? Okay. So without getting hit. So, Again, dude chained up in a dungeon. We've done this before. You know this song and dance. So we're going to talk to this guy, push this block, and then we leave. Not really much of a crypt at all, right? Right. This is what I refer to as a micro crypt. You need to do this little micro crypt like I just did in order to make the entrance for crypt 5 appear. Otherwise, you just go to the room and it's just a blank floor. Or you go to the screen, I should say. It's just a blank floor. So no other crypt has that particular mechanic. Why they chose to do it for that one, I don't know, but it's the way it is. So we just roll with it. Okay. All right, so this is crypt 5 here. So that fish head would not be there. Normally would just be kind of a blank floor. All right, please, tadpole, get out of my way. Walk up here, bait the daggers, and then walk. Don't need to kill these guys because greed is not something we need to deal with right now, which is cool. Good. All right, let's keep these guys. If you stand like a tile below that wizard, the height of the fire is enough that if it keeps moving toward you, it will continue to take damage from that fire, but it won't shoot at you, which is... Here we have a young guy chained up in the dungeon. They just wanted to switch it up. Alright. This room is awful. It is made so much easier if you have the good fire, but alas. Maybe I'll get a cherry drop without getting hit, and I can lucky. But again, those cherry drops are not something you can count on. Get him out of the way, so that way I can fire him. Okay, everybody, come on over here. Come on over here. Get your fire. Get some while it's hot.
Would you say this is a fire sale?
Indeed. I think it's more of a fire drill. Alright, so now we have our second sword upgrade. Despite the fact that they are very clearly purple, those are made of silver. Just the way it is. Alright, kill these guys. Block push in here. Get to eventually. All the enemies die. And there we go. Block is right about here. There you go. Roast these tadpole boys. Pick up our key. Now it's off to fight the boss. Push it back again. There it is. Back on through we go. Alright. Ignore him. He doesn't give us anything, so we don't need to listen to what he has to say. Press the 2 button. Fire 5. Alright, this is the crab boss. Now, depending on which way it moves when it gets up to the top of the screen, kind of dictate what I do here.
Did Neutopia inspire Crab Rave too?
I actually didn't hear what you said, but I will just assume the answer is yes.
Good answer, good answer.
I'm sorry, I was trying to concentrate on my timing for that boss. So I tuned you out. My apologies.
Oh, no, you focus. I'm here to be... I don't know. Yeah. End of sentence. I'm here to be...
Very good. All right. So that is both of the medallions from the sea sphere. And here we go into the sky sphere. Wow, I can't believe I am over 37 minutes into this run, and I have yet to point out just how awesome the soundtrack to this game is. The Sea Sphere theme is my personal favorite. A lot of people like the Sky Sphere theme too, for great reason. I mean, just listen to this absolute jam. The final boss theme is just great. You're absolutely going to want to catch that. So, but yeah, just a great soundtrack for this game. So here we've got the the good fire on full display. I'm going to use a technique that I refer to as fire walking, where as this flame is rolling along, I'm going to go ahead and just stay in the flame, because while enemies are in their iframes, they can't damage you. So as long as they're not shooting at you, if you stay in the flame, excuse me, and they're taking damage from it, they won't be able to hit you. So nice little technique just to kind of keep yourself safe as you traverse through this scary, scary world of Neutopia. Alrighty, so how stairs work in this game is you step on them and they send you spinning into the sky. It's a Neutopia thing. I don't know if that's inspired anything else, but if it has, drop your comments for that. Alright. On our way in here. Gonna pick up this potion, pick up these bombs. Yeah, fire walk with me, exactly. See, I'm gonna do it right here. These purple goober enemies here are extremely annoying. They just move around very randomly, very haphazardly, and they normally aggravate me to no end. So, we like to make our dealings with them as safe as possible. Don't touch me. Thank you very much. All right. Good. Okay. Now, despite the fact that I already had one potion, I picked up another one. Actually, that item will always give you two, even if you have no potion. Picking up that one in the treasure chest that we saw there will always give you two. What am I doing? Walk on through. Alright, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and use one of those potions right now. It is going to get me to full, give me a good fire, and we are going to go ahead and tear through at least the first half of this crypt. Hopefully rather quickly and efficiently. Now, I really can't take much in the way of damage at all for fear of losing it. So this is one of the things that really drew me to this game, is that the routing and kind of the skill that you have to use in order to do this well, requires you to be very careful with how you play. There's not a lot of sections in the late game where you can just be, reckless or just kind of pushing your way through. You have to play very smart in order to do it as fast as possible.
Not a lot of space to abuse damage boosts.
No. Otherwise, you lose the good fire. Now,
exactly.
If you have the potions to back it up, that's nice, but you only have so many of those. So, gotta be careful. Okay. What I'm about to pick up is not only a necessary item, but it's absurdly game-breaking. This is the Bell of the Sky. What this will do is, in rooms where you need to either kill all of the enemies or push a block or both in order to force the doors open, the bell overrides all of that. And it forces the doors open just by ringing it. All it costs you is about 2.5 seconds or so to let the chime do its thing. I'll take that. That way I can walk right by you. Touched.
How is that a thing that they designed?
Well, you can remember what I said in the beginning, where we do dungeons in a certain order because there's items we want to get our hands on ASAP.
Right, okay.
This is Crypt 8. This one is meant to be the last crypt in the game that you do. We make a beeline for that because it's going to trivialize not only the rest of this dungeon, or the rest of this crypt, but Crypt 7 is an absolute cakewalk because you have the bell. We use it, I think, in 7 different rooms in that crypt. It's insane. So, but we also use it in the Sky Sphere itself to get an extremely necessary and useful item. Alright, now these skeleton enemies Wow, that one was extremely cooperative. Those are another enemy that will only take damage from your sword. Normally they move around in a very fast and erratic fashion. That one just happened to walk right up to me and was super nice. So shout outs to that skeleton. You might notice that there might be a character or two in Undertale that took inspiration from Neutopia as far as its design. These guys out of my way, please. Firewalking right into that staircase. Trust me, it was there. I know you can't see it, but... Alright, this is the last time we use ring. Boom. All those enemies become these little kind of like lobby things, which just melts to the fire, no pun intended. Alright. Serious time. Perfect. Got the quick kill exactly as intended.
Nice.
So that guy that you saw there in the metal armor, that is Dirt. He is the final boss of the game. But what she's telling you is, no, Gazeta, you didn't defeat Dirt. You only destroyed his illusion. The real Dirt is on the North Pole. Get there ASAP. And so that's where we're going. But first, we have a whole other crypt to finish. And like I said, there's another very necessary item that we still need to get. Yeah, now, the quick kill on that boss is so critical because if you don't do it, that kind of like Puma mask thing that it was floating around in will continue to close. It floats around the room. The opportunities that you have to damage the dirt inside otherwise are very rare. And the worst thing about that boss is it has an absolute truckload of HP. It takes forever to kill it with a sword. Alright, so we made a pit stop here just to grab the final bomb upgrade. We now have it, and now we use the wings to just fly right back to the temple as opposed to walking back. Saves us, I don't know, probably about 15 seconds or so in walking time, so not a huge deal, but nice thing. Alright, so off to Crypt 7 we go, but there's a couple things we need to get before we get there. We need to get these grasshoppers to get out of our way. And lots of just really random enemy movement. There's the static stuff that I was talking about in the beginning, but then after that, pretty much all bets are off. And you just have to react. Which is why having the fire wand to give you that buffer of being able to damage enemies from a distance before they close that distance on you is, like, the importance of it cannot be overstated. Okay. No firewalking. Self-safe. Ooh. It is the strongest sword, Hyperstrike. It even says it on the screen. Alright, so a couple things we're doing here. First of all, this guy is going to give us our third and final optional life capacity upgrade. The fourth one is buried, like, deep in a corner in Crypt 7 and just takes forever to get to. So that's the one that we're going to skip. And then we slide a couple screens over here, bust out our bell, get a little ring-a-ding. This staircase appears. My dog in there. And we come up to this island. Here we have the strongest sword. We now have all of our swords and all of our armors. We have one more shield to get. That's in Crypt 7 as well. Whoops, hello. I would say so, yes. It is stronger than the power sword. It is literally the strongest sword. The other nice thing about this sword is that each progressive sword that you get is a little longer than the one before it, so it gives us a little more range too, which is great. Alrighty. So now we just gotta kind of do a little more scooting around until we get to crit 7. Oh, whoops. Got one. Oh, nice. I got a refund there. Love to see it. You can skip a life upgrade in a 100% run, and I explained at the very beginning, but basically the requirement for the 100% category is worded such that you need to have the maximum capacity of life. If you grab all 4, there isn't room for the 4th optional one, and it essentially does nothing. So in order to satisfy having, the full capacity, you only need to grab 3 of the 4. So we skip the one that we just don't need. Into crit 7 we go. I'm not dealing with these kind of mantis enemies, whatever. I'll leave the door open with the bell. Get out of my way. Go. Bomb our way open here. Alright, now, let's do this. So this room is going to be the only one you're going to see me use that moonbeam moss that I was talking about. Because there's 3 blocks that you need to push in a specific pattern. And doing this in the dark is, you have to be very particular. If you push them in the wrong order, you have to exit the room and come back in to reset it. And as you can see, from what I'm doing here, that would be a considerable waste of time. So just because we have the moonbeam moss, we use it there to get through. Now, if you're doing an any percent run, and you're doing like a world record attempt, let's say, you would normally skip that moonbeam moss. This right here is what I like to call the Scala Bridge. I intentionally ring the bell right there. It's the only room where you're on a tile like that, and it pauses the game for a minute, and you can see that rainbow bridge in all of its splendorous glory. So, yet again, another shout out to my good friend Scala. Alrighty, so we're going to come down here, and in that treasure chest is the strongest shield. Look how magnificent that is. That's going to block pretty much everything. Blue fireballs, red fireballs, the blue arrow shots that you see from like the goat wizards and things like that. So we've got full protection. Alright, so push this block into the staircase. Alrighty, now got a few rooms before the boss, but we don't have time for that. We're just gonna ring the bell, bust this open, ring the bell, bust this one open too, ring it here, bust this open. Unfortunately, the door in here is the one to the boss. The bell does not work on those doors. Alright, so what I'm going to demonstrate here, this is a boss I'm about to fight. I'm going to demonstrate the power of the strongest sword. Now don't blink, because killing this boss is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Yep. Strongest sword puts in work. Alright, so that is our 8th and final medallion. We have collected everything we need to satisfy the 100% category once we get the segment of life here for finishing that crit. The last thing we need to do is confront Dearth, and that will happen very soon, because that door you see at the top of the screen, the blue door with Burb on it, is about to go flying open, and we are going to step onto this teleporter here, and the confrontation will begin. 32 hits to kill this boss. I'll explain how it works after, but I'm going to go silent so you can enjoy this banger. There it is. Boss defeated. Time is not until we get into the next room and it fades to black. So the way that that boss works is that as long as you don't move to left or right, it will always appear directly above and below you in alternating patterns. You always know exactly where it's going to be. So that allows us to kill that boss pretty easily. All right, so we're gonna get up to the top here. This is what I like to refer to as the gang's all here. Everybody congratulates Zeta, and once this screen fades to black, that is time.
GG's.
Thank you very much. So that was Neutopia, the 100% category for the TurboGrafx 16. I hope you all enjoyed it very much. If you enjoyed what I was doing here, you enjoyed, the game, the speed run, the commentary, maybe a combination of those things, please do give me a follow. I do greatly appreciate that. This is my main speed run. I have the, a couple of world records in the categories for this game. It is my pride and joy. It is my numero uno. And if you like this, then there's plenty of this to be seen on the channel. Thank you everyone so much for all of the GGs. I really do appreciate it. And so I think that's going to just about do it for me here. So again, like I said, hope to see you on my channel sometime soon. I know we've got more. This is just the first day of this event. We still got more coming up after this. So I hope you all stick around and enjoy that. And I look forward to seeing you all around soon. And until I do, take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, Vani. But before I let you get away from me, I do have to ask a question. I know that you also run Neutopia 2, and my question did Neutopia 2 inspire Neutopia, or Neutopia inspired Neutopia 2?
So obviously Neutopia 2 was inspired by Neutopia, but a lot of people ask, well, what inspired Neutopia? And this is a phenomenon that I like to refer to as the immaculate inspiration, where the game essentially inspired itself. So it is its own source of inspiration as well as everything else. It is quite majestic.
And it cares not for the space-time continuum. I know I saw people talking about release dates, and it's like, those don't matter to Neutopia. Neutopia still inspired it. It's fine. Well, thank you so much, Vani. It's always a pleasure hanging out with y'all. With you. One of these days, I will get a segue correct without any flubs, I swear. We are going to go get set up for our next game, which will be Yoshi's Island, any percent warpless with crispy speedruns. Hang tight, everybody.
Take care, everyone.